Thanks, Ryan. Go to the next slide. So I wanted to start with an update on our implementation plan for a NASA integrated lunar science strategy in the Artemis era. We released the draft of this document back in November with the expectation that we would have a final document out this spring. We're a little behind on that, but we got some great feedback from the community. We are still sifting through it and hoping to get a final version out this summer. Next slide. But just because we haven't gotten the final draft out, I do want to reassure everybody that we've been working hard. So those of you who have read this draft, the last section of it is a section of next steps. It's a list of activities that we were committing to undertake over the next 2 years. And this is that list. And I just wanted to demonstrate that we are actually making good progress on this list. We've got a couple of activities that are already complete, including a short study looking at endurance A concept and a phase A study on LEXO. That would be a follow-on to LRO. Those are both complete now. We've got a number of activities that are in progress, including, you'll hear more later today about the LEAG XMEG study on Artemis samples. We're really looking forward to getting those results back. Super important stuff for getting us prepared for Artemis. Doing community engagement on Moon to Mars definition documents, the annual cycle for that we are continuing to make sure that our community is plugged into. Continuing this series of workshops to get direct feedback from you on the things that are most important as we move forward together through Artemis. National Academy study on the humans on the surface of Mars that got kicked off last month. Or earlier this month. I don't know, I'm losing track of the days. But anyway, it's gotten kicked off and they're starting their work. And working with the USGS to define a coordinated mapping strategy. That is still something we are working with, but the first step in that is the lunar mapping program, which proposals are due in just a couple weeks. So I feel like we're making some progress there. We do have, lost my slide. We do have a couple of activities that we have started working towards that I'm not ready to turn them green yet, but we have started negotiating with the national academies for putting together a task on the science value of non-polar human destinations. And you'll hear right in the talk after me about the initiative that we were working towards for South Blake and sample return. And then finally, the last thing on this list that we have not yet started yet is planning for a LGN payload study to understand the feasibility of a CLPS-based approach. We are still working that, but haven't yet quite gotten to a point where we are ready to turn that one any color. But I think that's a pretty good, I mean, considering we have 2 years to do this, I actually think we're making some pretty good progress. Next slide. Get involved in Artemis. There's lots and lots of ways for the community to get involved in Artemis. I keep talking about how Artemis is not a thing that NASA is doing. It is a thing that we are doing as a community, and that we absolutely cannot do this without the science community. And so hopefully there are lots and lots of ways for you to get involved. We have a number of calls coming up, including the lunar mapping program that I just mentioned. That is a sort of pilot program to help us figure out how to do mapping for Artemis, how to do mapping for human exploration on the scale of human exploration. I'm just pretty excited about that. Those proposals are due soon, but note that they are only 3-page proposals, so it is not too late to start if that sounds interesting to you. And analog activities program, those proposals are due in December, and we are looking forward to hopefully spinning up another analog. I will talk a little bit more about the last year's in just a minute, but that is a great activity to sort of get your feet wet and learn about how Artemis is really going to be operated. Artemis 4 deployed instruments, lunar terrain vehicle instruments, Artemis 3 participating scientist program. We've got a lot of stuff coming. Those first two, the instrument ones are coming soon. I'm not going to put a date on them because my colleagues will be mad, but they are coming soon. And then that participating scientist program will probably be part of next Rose's year. So we are starting to think about it yet, but not yet quite ready to put that out. There are also plenty of opportunities to provide input, including through these LSSWs. I cannot stress enough how important the input that we've gotten through these workshops has been to us. and will continue to be. So please, we really appreciate those who show up to these things. I know it's not a, it's not a zero cost to you. It is a time commitment to show up and provide your input to these activities. But boy, it's really been a godsend to us in terms of getting the information we need. I'm constantly being asked, Sarah, what does the lunar science community think about X or Y? And I'm like, well, let me just look into my community crystal ball and give you the answer. But these LSSWs are often the way that we are able to get those answers in a timely way. So appreciate that. Again, the League at XMEG joint sat on samples, super helpful community activity, spinning up that National Academy study and non-polar human destinations. So keep your eyes out for that, for calls for participation in that. That SPA sample return SDT, again, Ryan's going to talk more about that in a minute. And then I did also want to note that there is on the street right now this lunar non-interference questionnaire from OTPS, that is NASA's policy office, not OSTP, which is the White House's policy office. And I will put a link to that in the chat. So if that is your area of expertise, it'd be really great to get some input from folks in the community on that. Due June 7th. I also want to note that there's a lot of questions in that questionnaire, and you don't have to answer all of them. You can pick and choose, and it would still be useful to us to get information on some subset of those questions. Next slide. And then just a quick summary of where we are with our LSSWs. We have slowed our cadence a bit. We are going somewhere closer to quarterly than monthly, but we got some really good ones in last year, including talking about the landing sites, geologic mapping, that orbital observation science one. The report for the orbital observation science just went up, I believe. So that's out there if you are curious. This year, right, we had one in April on science at a base camp. We've got this one today. There's two coming up in August. It's gonna be a busy month. We've got one on plume surface interactions, as well as the one that Kevin was talking about. And I'm sorry, I have the title wrong here, Kevin, but that's sort of the BPS half of the long-term habitat science that we did in April. So those are great. I think we will probably fit another one or two in before the end of the year as well. We've got a couple other topics that are brewing. So keep your eyes peeled and show up if you can, and particularly for topics of interest. Next slide. And then I just wanted to say this happened just last week. And so, everybody's still trying to recover from it, and we don't have the data together yet, but we had a really successful Jet 5 test last week. It went really great. We had, if you saw anything in the news about it, you probably saw these great pictures of our astronaut crew out in the Arizona, wandering around in their little astronaut suits, and in the day and the night, trying to get some test data off of them. But the real science was happening back in Houston. Next slide, where we had our science team. So this is what happens if you're on the analog activities programs, right? We put together a whole science team. We've got a full up science back room that's working with the mission control back room to try and coordinate science between us and learn how that's really going to happen for our Artemis 3. And so this is we learned a ton. We have more to learn, but we did learn a ton. We've got some great input on how to work those operational handovers between us and the front room, as well as between this year. We had both a tactical team and a strategic or a planning team, and how you do that handover between the two. And so there'll be some really great science results coming out of that. Once the team gets caught up in their sleep and has a little time to think through things. But just wanted to mention what a great test that was last week, and to thank everybody involved who really gave it their all. And I think that is my last slide.